Welcome to our attendees who are streaming in now. Great. Kia ora tato. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Q&A event here at Digital Boost. I am Georgia Hatchis, and today we have the brilliant author and globally renowned sales coach, Ian Cartwright. Welcome, Ian. I know it's you.
I'm just wondering who you're talking about.
No, it was me. No, it's you. So Ian is the author of The 6 Fundamentals of Sales Know-How. And today he's going to walk us through the fundamentals of designing your sales process with the 6 fundamentals of sales know-how. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. So make sure that you pop your questions into the Q&A, the comments, the chat function, wherever you're streaming in from. And you get a chance here to get your questions answered by experts. And Ian is our expert today, so don't be shy. Welcome, Ian.
Georgia, thank you. And great to be here. I guess where I come at this from is that, as I lead into, I'm not a natural salesperson. It's something I sort of fell into. And I'm really conscious that so many people in business, particularly small business, really struggle with the sales component of what they need to do to be successful. And the reality is, from my world anyway, everybody's in sales, but people are scared. They think they have to be something they're not. You know, the whole big teeth and shiny shoes and flashy handshakes, but it's not. It's all about just being yourself, because if you're not yourself, who else are you going to be? So what I'm really trying to do, and through this morning's session, is really sort of demystify that dirtiness of sales in a way that people can relate it to their own business by understanding what their sales process is, the way in which sales and marketing needs to work together in their organization, no matter how big you are, and give them some, or give you guys some tips and tricks that you can use and some resources to be able to sort of set your own sales path. And where I come at it from is about 30 plus years, particularly in B2B sales experience, locally and globally. I've been fortunate enough to work with sales teams in about 20 odd different countries across multiple industries. And the things we're going to talk about today are the same, regardless of whether I'm working with a mum and dad organization or whether I'm working with a global corporate. It's just all about scale. So hopefully it'll be a really cool, simplistic session. And if those questions and answers come throughout the session, then we can get into those and it'll be far more beneficial for everybody.
Well, and what I love about these sessions as well, and for everyone, is that we don't have to go through the 20 or 30 years of making mistakes. We've got you to do that for us and then tell us how to do it. So it's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
That's right. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Let's see if I can make this screen work, because that'll be the first. Are we up? 6 fundamentals. Can we see that?
Gorgeous. Yep, there it is.
And this is really what I've distilled it down to. And we're going to focus on the first 2 or 3. They're building blocks in a way. And the first thing in any sales organization or any role is really understanding what it is you do. And by understanding what it is you do, it means you understand how your clients use your products or services to get ahead in their world. Because as you'll see shortly, it's not about your product or service, it's about what your customers can do with it. So understanding what you do and the way you help them is foundational. And you really do need to understand that first, because otherwise, how are you going to go and promote yourself? The second one I've really landed on is knowing why you do it. And that's about you. That's about your grounding. Why are you in sales? Why are you in the role you're in? What are your ethics? Do you understand your own traits and soft skills and human skills? Now, we've all got things that we're good at, and we've all got things that we need to be working on. So, for example, in sales, tenacity and resilience are really important, because you're never going to win every sale you go for, and that's fine. That's about sales. And if you do lose, it's not personal. It can't be, because the person you're dealing with more often than not won't know you personally, but that's what people struggle with. So if you understand what you do, and the second one, why you do it, you've got a really good foundation for going into the market and trying to target those sales. Knowing who you do it for is about knowing your space in the market. So if you know what it is you do and how you help people, then knowing who you do it for is really understanding where are all those other people in the market I could be playing with, and being quite specific. One of the common it's failings, I suppose, people fall into is that they get all excited about growing business and they go chasing Labradors and bright, shiny things, instead of being really targeted on understanding where your market is. Knowing where to do it is actually relates that last topic in a really nice way, in that the best place to grow existing business or to grow your business is with your existing customers. So understanding that, do you know all of the people you could be dealing with your current customer base? Do you know all the contact people? And the thing I call white spaces, where you might have 5 or 6 different products where you could be selling to a particular customer, you might only be selling 2 of them at the moment. So what are the plans to get the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th product across the line with that customer, as opposed to chasing a brand new customer with whom you have no relationship? Knowing how to do it more is all around having a methodology for moving your prospects through your sales process. So how do I start engaging with a person, and then what sorts of questions and approaches do I use to move them through to being a paying customer? So I like a consultative methodology, where I guess the best analogy is that if you and I go to the doctor, we don't walk through the door and the doctor says, "Thank goodness you're here, Georgia. Here are all your prescriptions for the next 6 months." So how can that happen? Because the doctor hasn't asked you any questions. So you've got to start asking questions. So in sales, there's a reason that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can shut up and listen. So having a nice way to go through that is really important. How to do it more is around understanding account management, relationship management, and building layered relationships, time management. And we'll touch a little bit on some of that during this morning. So what I really want to focus on this morning is more about just understanding the sales process, because we all have one, and how that enables you to sort of map out how you do sales in your business. So we'll just here we go. There's a scary picture of me with hair. So I'm not a salesperson. I started out as an electrical draftsman. I did an NZC electrical. That's me in 1986, where we started drawing lines and circles. That's all I did. And then I eventually did this NZC electrical, fell into applications engineering, and through that learned to look after people with problems. And my soon-to-be sales manager said to my father, who was a customer of the company I was working with once I'd done some applications engineering, he said, "Oh, we're going to put Ian into sales." And my father turned around to Brian and said, "Well, you can't do that. He's too honest." And therein lies it. We think we have to go and sell to people, sell them things that they don't want. And we've all been sold to, and it's not that. So as I said before, everything I've learned that I'm going to share some of with you today is what's been learned out making mistakes, and lots of them, but also understanding what does work and putting it into practice. So no one's born naturally as a salesperson. In some ways, you may have charisma and you may have people skills, but this is actually about activity and learning how to be organized and disciplined against a plan so you can be successful. So really quickly, just going through and recapping those 6 fundamentals. Knowing what you do is about understanding how sales and marketing work together in relation to your products and services. That's what we're going to focus on this morning, along with a little bit about account and relationship management. But for me, sales is the art, and it is an art of facilitating, not ramming down someone's throat, are mutually beneficial, which means that it's going to work for you and your company, and it's going to work for you and your customer. It has to be a win-win. If it's not, you've got to be prepared to walk away, because otherwise you get buyer's remorse. And it's a problem-solving solution. Your product or service is being used to solve a problem for your customer. So if you're in the B2B space, it is going to be something to help them advance their business. If you're in more the B2C space and you're dealing direct with clients, then that's going to be more around their lifestyle, their emotions, how they feel, those sorts of things. Predominantly this morning, I'm going to focus a bit more on the B2B side of things, but it is relatable. So if you distill all that down, really simply, sales is about solving problems and telling stories.
You know, it's interesting, Ian, what you said about not ramming things down people's throat. And I think that's where people get that fear, especially, you know, those of us, you know, Kiwis, especially. I obviously not a Kiwi, but I have that same sensibility of like, don't want to get in the way, don't want to bother people, don't want, you know, so this is really a lovely way to demystify that and show us how we can be ourselves and still solve a problem for another person.
It's a real Kiwi thing, and we're shocking. I'm based in Christchurch and we're Cantabrians and we're worse. It's like we don't want to put a head up above the parapet. It's like, okay, I've got this product. It's not too bad. I quite like it. It could help you, but you can have a look if you like, but don't worry if you haven't got time. It's okay. I'll come back another day.
Yeah.
If you understand your market that you're dealing in and your customers, you know they've got issues that you can help them with. And we're also shocking in this country at celebrating our success. And in sales, you can feel like you're never there. So you have to, you know, puff your chest out when you do win something and get over the line and be proud of what you do. But at the end of the day, you understand what it is you do to help people, because you will do. And then if you go and asking sensible questions related to that, which we'll talk about soon, then you're just having a conversation and you're building a rapport. And once you build rapport, then you build trust. With people that I work with, I give them a rule of thumb, and that's 3 goes to get a go. So if you can work with a client, you might go and visit them once and they'll say, "Oh, who are you? Where are you from?" And you do what you need to do. Second time, whether you phone them up or you go and meet them or you're doing a video call, it's, "Oh, that's right. Remember, you're from XYZ. Now remind me what you did again." And you're adding a bit of value through that visit. By the third time you get in front of them, it should be a case of, "Oh, okay, I understand where you're coming from. You seem like a reasonable person. Actually, I've got a question over here about a problem. You might be able to help me." As long as people go in there understanding that they've got to take the time to build a rapport, to build some trust, that's fine. If your customer will flip on a dime, they'll flip on a dime for your competitors as well. So you don't want that. So we just have to be patient. So thinking about a sandwich, to be a little bit left field, that looks fantastic. It might not if you don't like red onions, but I quite like it. But if we go to somewhere like that does this, or we go to Subway that puts these out there, we're not going because we want to buy that sandwich that looks really attractive. We want to bring it back, put it on our desk and look at it all day. The reason you go to buy a sandwich is because you're hungry. So that is your problem. The sandwich resolves the problem. As a result of that, you are then, hopefully, energized and fueled to be more productive in the rest of the day. So it's about what your clients can do as a result of your product or service. So overcoming their pain points. And your clients are typically interested in one of 3 things. They either want to increase their profitability, they want to increase their productivity, or they want to improve their peace of mind. And I call them my client pleasure points, without being daft. So it's starting to think about, okay, yes, you've got this product or service, but the reality is, in an ideal world, you don't want the sandwich, you just want to get on and go, although we like eating them. But your products or services, we don't need a roof on our house if it never rained or it was never too sunny. So it's about, why is your client coming to you? What is the problem they're trying to solve? Because that's what you're doing. You're not in sales, you're a problem solver. And it comes down to activity. So I love the analogies between sport and business. And if we look at these 2 blokes, I have a wee bit to do with rowing, so I picked this photo. So Bond and Murray were so successful at what they did over a long period of time, multiple gold medals, multiple world championships, but they could never actually really control whether or not they won the gold medal. What they could control was the near 200 perfect strokes in a given race. They could control how many hours they spent on the water training, how many kilometers they rode, and they could control how much time they spent in the gym. And I think this is really relevant today too, because we all hear in the background all this noise about cost of living and inflation. And I'm not meaning noise to be disparaging, but it's actually stuff that's going on, which we can let get into our heads and think, "Oh, there's no point because, woe is me." But what you can focus on is what you control. And what you can control is the stuff we're talking about today. So the activity you do every day, and you should be doing some form of prospecting activity every day. If you're doing it in the right places at the right time and it's the right activity, over time you will be successful. You just have to trust yourself. And that's where sales is all about organization and discipline. So if you're doing the right activity, you'll be right. Similarly, another sporting one, if anyone recognizes these are a pair of Michael Jackson's basketball boots. And if you own a pair of his boots, you probably don't need to work. You can just auction them off. But 2 things about Michael Jackson. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jackson was successful too, but Michael Jordan was a big one for discipline. And if you have Netflix and you haven't watched his documentary, The Last Dance, please do. It is relevant to business. But he was very big on the fact that, yes, he looked really successful, but a lot of times he failed. And in business and in sales, that happens. But if you don't have a go, you'll miss out. We've got a question, I think, have we? Should we see what it is? Thank you. You're right, Michael Jordan. Someone's
Yes, we're getting.
The big bit about this is putting yourself in your customer's shoes. And so empathy is really important in sales. And empathy doesn't mean, throwing yourself down at your customer's shoes and wailing on their behalf because things are going bad for them and being sympathetic. Empathy is understanding what they're trying to go through, what they're trying to achieve, and how you might be able to help, which comes back to listening. Two elements to sales that in any role. In New Zealand, we do a lot of small businesses, and these parts of these sales roles become part of everybody's day-to-day being in a way. And it is about, sometimes we call it hunting and farming. Farming is account management. So that's looking after the customers that you've got. Rule of thumb, cost you 5 times as much to secure a new customer as it does to keep an existing one. Looking after your existing customers is very important. And too many people that I deal with, they have a surprise when a customer goes and buys from one of their competitors. You need to be looking after your customers. You need to be proactively in touch with them on a regular basis, making sure that what they're trying to achieve with your products and services is actually happening for them, and that you know who all the people are in their organization that you should do. You should have no surprises. The hunting piece is around going out and targeting new business. So if you're trying to manage your activity on a daily basis and what you shouldn't be doing, I sort of have a rule of thumb for people around 3 to 1. Spend 3, if you're making 3 calls, make 3 calls to existing customers and 1 to a target customer, so that you are getting the balance right. But you do need to incorporate elements of hunting and farming into your organizational day. So sales process, every business has a sales process, and that is the series of steps that your customer takes on their journey from being a prospect to being a long-term paying customer in an ideal world. So I've got a little exercise here. Well, it's an exercise that will follow, but an example of how sales process can be fairly well explained using my local coffee shop, which is Upshot Coffee here in Christchurch, which is very rustic. It's built in an old horse stable, and it's very relaxed too. So Megan runs this, and not all the prices are up. So it's a little bit as you come in, you'll find out what you need and what you don't need. But Megan, although she doesn't know it, she has a sales process. So sales processes can often be represented by either a sales funnel or a sales pipeline. So sales funnel will try to replicate or depict the number of customers that you have that might be in a suspect stage. So a suspect is anybody that could possibly be a customer, whether they know it or you don't know it. So there's a lot of unknowns. You haven't done any qualification. After you've worked out that actually they might want to do some business with you, they become a prospect. Then as you start having a discussion with them, you get to the point where you might be able to start doing some business together. You might go through an analysis and a proposal stage. Then you might move to negotiation. All going well, it'll be closed and you'll win and everyone's happy. And then some dollars float out the end. I'm quite big on the fact that you can't control this number. Talk about the gold medals before. You can't necessarily control how many dollars come out the door this particular week. But what you can control is the activity you do as you marshal, using your methodology, your prospects through your sales funnel on their way to becoming a paying customer. So that's to do with the way in which you talk to them, all the things that you do, the collateral you give them, the questions you ask, the listening that you do as you move them on the way through. And it's about having a sales playbook, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But if we use Megan's example to try and explain this in a really sensible way or a simple way, if you were just walking past Megan's shop, didn't look in, or you did look in, then you're what we call a suspect. So we're not sure yet whether you're interested in going into the coffee shop. But as soon as you go into Upshot and you start taking a look around, you become a prospect. Now, Megan sees you and starts to strike up a conversation, starts to see if she can help. What are you looking for? From her perspective, you've moved into a bit of an analysis phase. Now, if you're still keen there and you stay on and you start asking the price of a bar of chocolate, for argument's sake, because there's no prices up anywhere, then you've gone into a negotiation phase, and if you're happy with the price, you will buy it. Really simplistic. Now, through each of those stages, there will be people that walk out the door. We lose people. But understanding that there is a process they go through, and understanding that as your customers go through a stage of your sales process, there are things that you should be doing, which can be as simple as welcoming them, how you engage with them, taking a look at what they're up to and trying to work out what they do. And then this becomes part of your playbook. Now, if you know your numbers, measure it, you can manage it. So if we look at the situation, Megan realized that on Mondays it was a bit quiet and things were getting a little bit dodgy because of cost of living. Now she's worked out that she needs to do something. So she started to measure traffic. So we worked out that for a given Monday, there were 500 people that were either going past or coming in the shop. And so 200 weren't coming in, 300 were. So we already had a drop off. So we've got 200 coming in the shop, and of those 300 coming in the shop, and of those 250 went into an analysis phase and 50 walked out the door. Now, once you started talking to them, we dropped 50 off again. So only 200 went to a negotiation. Of those 200, 150 purchased. And that helps her because she knows that she's got to put $1,500 through the door on a given Monday. So if those 150 people spend $10 each, we've got the $1,500. So if we look at it in terms of percentages, we were seeing that it's a 30% hit rate versus all the people that could be coming in that we're purchasing, that are giving us $1,500. But cost of living, we now need to get $2,000 in through the door. So all of a sudden, 150 people spending $10 each isn't doing it. So there's some things that we can do now that we know our numbers. So Megan could be smarter about her outward marketing, targeting the right people, and not necessarily getting more people in the top of the funnel, but more of the right sort of people. She could be smarter about some of the marketing that's done inside the coffee shop so that she's attracting more of them. And then we have more people who are going to engage and ask about pricing. She could put her prices up, which is the most simple thing to do, but that might turn some people away. She could decide that if I need to get some extra money out of here, if I'm smarter with the existing people that I'm dealing with, I can do that anyway. And that's cool. I call that widening the funnel. So we get more people coming out. She could do loyalty cards. She could put a coffee and a muffin deal together. So it's about thinking about, okay, now that I know my numbers and my sales process, how do I get smarter so I can widen my funnel and get more people through? Now,
So
if you know,
Ian, oh, sorry. So
Go,
these percentages here, are we looking at just average percentages? Or are you just, is this a made up? I know it's, you know.
made up.
Yeah. So for other people, it might not be, we're not looking at 30%. We're not saying this is the average across all businesses. This
Yep.
is just this particular fantasy story. Yeah.
It is. So
Mhm.
if your conversion rate, which is what we call this, was really low at 10%, people can panic and think, oh, I've got to put my prices up. I've got to be scattergun. Actually, no, you don't. You need to really understand, where is your target market? Who are the people that really do benefit most from dealing with your products and services? And how do I target more of those people? So that comes back to understanding their pain points. The first thing is really understanding, yes, I do have a sales process in my organization, and there are ways in which I get people in the door. So that's where I think sales and marketing really does need to work together.
Yeah. So we've got a quick question here. What happens if you are in the luxury market and you don't want heaps of clients, you want a small number of high-paying clients? Ooh.
That's a good
Yes.
question.
Yes, please.
It's finding out where those that luxury market, where do they get their information about your type of product or service, and being in that space. So you only want to be visible where they go to find out about people like you, so that you're attracting the right people in the top part of your funnel. And that's where owning the space that you are high end and high price is fine, because you don't want everybody coming in. It's about qualifying them too. So I tend to be really clear about understanding your market and the sorts of things they're looking for, and then you market back to them in the places where they get their information from. So whether that might be the high-end magazines, online or in digital print that they get, or print that they get in the same social channels. So that's been quite pointed in your part of the market. There's a big old market out there, and you only want to play a certain place. Well, that part of the market, where do they get their information from? So how can I make myself accessible in that part of the market where they get their information? And how can I educate them also about what it is that I do and that we're targeting at them, so that you make it aspirational? Because, you know, those sorts of people, they want to feel like they're in an exclusive club. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So understanding your sales process is really important. You can map out your own ones, and this will upset some people, but we're in Crusaders country, and understanding what you do in your sales process so that you are consistent is very important. And this is a good example, because the Crusaders went through 48 players in the last Super Rugby season. Every one of those 48 players came onto the field, into the squad, knowing what their job was. And so even though they had to dig really deep in terms of squad, because they had very clear playbooks, for want of a simplistic term, people knew what their job was. So in business, building your own playbook, no matter how simple it is, whether it's written down on a piece of paper or you've got a Word document running, is important. If you go to my website, iancartwright.co.nz, and jump into the resources page, 2/3 of the way down that page, there are some downloadable, editable PDFs. So this is one of them, which is where you can build your own sales process. So stage names will vary depending on the journey your customer goes through. So it can be an inbound lead. Inbound lead comes in as an email. So thinking about, okay, if I get an email, clearly they're straight as a prospect. So they'll be in a prospect here. My customers are receiving an email. What are the things that I do? So you might just prescribe that in your organization. We get an inbound lead. I need to pick up the phone and talk to that person within 4 hours, within 8 hours, or the same day. So people know what we do. And then, okay, how do I structure that phone call? So having some scripts around how you introduce yourself, how you respond to their phone call, and what you want as a next step is something that you can document. If you're then going to send them, you work through an analysis phase with them, and they might want an email with some more information. How do you send that information? So what collateral do you send with it? What brochures do you send with it? When you go to a quote phase, how do you structure your quotations? And then also, after you've done that, how long do you leave it before you ring them up again to see if I've got the quote? Does it make sense? What do they want to do next? So we won't work through it right now because it's something you can do at home, and you'll be able to come over this webinar as well and go through it. But just download that PDF and start to map out what are the stages of the journey that your customer goes through. And there might only be 3 or 4, there could be 5 or 6. And then this customer journey is understanding what does your customer see from you. They see or experience, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's you sending them a message back through WhatsApp or social media, whatever way it is, because you're thinking about how do I do stuff in my organization, but how do I want the next person that comes into my team to do this stuff as well? So that it's documented and you get that uniformity and consistency. And so you can start to think about what's the collateral I need to use at each stage, right through to when, if we're in the negotiation stage and I'm going to be doing a presentation in front of my client, what presentation do I use? How do we go through that? What questions do we ask? And then underneath that, you can start to build some bullet points on the sort of training that you need to put in place internally to make sure that the team members are up to speed with what you do throughout your process. Normally I'd ask if this makes sense and I'd see a whole lot of nodding heads, but I can't do that at the moment. So I've just got to hope that it has.
I'm going to nod for everyone. Yes, it
Very
makes
good.
sense.
Thank you, Georgia. That's lovely. So sales and marketing has to work together. So I'm a big believer in this, that a lot of what I do with workshops is actually around the marketing space. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this now because we're understanding that we've got a funnel and we want to get the right people on the top of our funnel. We don't necessarily want to get lots of people. We want to get more of the right people. So if we get more of the right people, we will convert more of them. Understanding how we get more of the right people on the top of our funnel is being a lot clearer about how our products and services solve problems for them, how we can educate them about that, where do we go and find more of them so that we attract them to us, because marketing is attraction, sales is about the conversion part of it. So some of you may have an early understanding of marketing principles, and this is a very basic one, which is called the 4 Ps of marketing, which was pioneered really by a guy called Dr. Philip Kotler out of the States in the 60s. He became known as the father of modern marketing. And at the ripe old age of 92, he is still doing some lecturing, and you can find him online. So if you're not following him, please do. But this is what he really sort of pioneered and made most popular, and it's very product centric. So it's typically about making sure that you are promoting your product at the right place, at the right price, in the right place. So the simplistic one, if you and I are going shopping and we're leaving a particular supermarket, on the right-hand side, they've got the crunchy bars at 90 cents. And you can't help yourself, so you pick them up and put them in your trolley. So a lot of it's all about that. Okay, I've got to make sure I'm promoting it in the right way. I'm in the right place so where people can find it. It's the product they want, and I'm at the right price. And this has become a basic tenet of marketing for many years. In the mid-80s, Harvard did a study around this and an evolution of it, where they came up with a model which was called the SAVE model, which is one I work with my clients on. I really like it because it's client-centric. And the reason I like this is because we're not talking about product, we're talking about client. We need to understand the client. So in working with the client, we're not going to talk about our product, we're going to try and find a solution to their problem. And in doing that, we're not going to talk to them about price, we're going to talk to them about value. What is the value of our solution? So in an agribusiness sense, if we can buy a new harvester, yes, it might cost a whole lot, but it means they can get through their work a whole lot quicker, then their productivity goes up, their profitability goes up, and their peace of mind is improved. So what is the value? It's not the cost, it's about the value. What is your client able to now do, or how much money they're able to now make as a result of working with your products or services? So that's the solution you've given them, what's the value? And if that's the case, and you understand your clients and what part of the market they're in, how do we make ourselves more accessible to them? So the question we had before about the luxury market, how do we make sure that the people we want to deal with can find us? And then that's the last part of it, is educating the clients we want to deal with about the value that our solution will provide them. So product becomes solution. Instead of place, we focus on access, so where we are. So that comes down to your socials, your digital presence, the seminars that you might go to, the networking events that you might go to, the events, the trade fairs, those sorts of things, and the things that you do yourself proactively. Making sure that we're really focusing on the value, and you can only focus on the value if you truly understand what your client is able to do as a result of using your products and services. So you have to be very inquisitive about that and generally understanding. And then we continue to educate them. So that's the storytelling piece. We'll touch a little bit on that. So the SAVE model. So if you're on my blog page, there's, I think, about the second or third blog in talks about this as well. And this is really in around that first fundamental. David Ogilvy, I love old traditional stuff. I like all the new fandangled stuff, but I do focus on some of the old stuff as well. So David Ogilvy set up an advertising agency in London post-World War II, and he's known as being the father of this approach. And it's all about using your customer's language. So if you're trying to persuade people to do something or buy something, to him it seems sensible that you did so in their own language. So you might make up a really flash term for something in your product. That's only useful if it makes sense to your client and is in their language. So understanding how they might see success in their world, very important. So how can you understand what it is you do to help your customers? That comes in all around understanding their pain points. And if you're on that resources page, you will see a pain points worksheet for you to download and work through. And it allows you to put in, say, 3 different customer types and thinking about what their pain points are. So what are the things that are holding them back from doing what they would like to do? So just referring to an ag sense, it might be that, for example, we saw on TV a couple 3 weeks ago on the news down south, and very puggy soil, they can't do anything with it. So wet soil they're struggling with, and there's a type of harvester that allows them to go through and strip till and be able to plant and fertilize they wouldn't be able to do before. So if you think about a pain point for your customer, what is holding them back? Then see if you can list how your product or service actually helps them, what it allows them to do. So simplistically, think about the sandwich. I'm hungry. How do you help? We make sandwiches. Business impact. My customer is able to go and be energetic and productive in their afternoon. It comes back to the very old features, advantages, benefits mentality that we've spoken about in sales many times. It still is relevant in my mind. Because if you can think about this for your customer types and you know what their pain points are and how you help, then you can help you overcome one of the big fears that people have. One of the big fears for people in sales is they don't know how to start a conversation. So we can say, how's the weather? That's good. But people really, you can get over that pretty quickly. But once you've done your introductions, if you can start asking open questions, so the difference between an open and closed question will normally give you a yes or no answer. It's like, did you have a good weekend? It's either yes or no. But if I ask you how your weekend was, you tend to have to make a bit more effort in your response. So then you can start asking questions. But if you understand your customers' pain points, and then you can ask them open questions related to the pain points you know that they could be having. Ag space, how was last season's harvest? We'll get you some discussion. You know typically what their pain points are going to be because you know why they're using your product or services, but you need your customers to articulate back to you what their problems are. And then you can dig a little bit deeper as well until you get to the point where you can understand with some detail what's really holding them back for what they'd like to do. And then you can start talking about how you might be able to help, and then go deep into what the impact on their business could be, the positive impact, what they're able to achieve as a result of dealing with you. Make sense, everybody?
Yeah, that's great. And if it doesn't make sense, pop your questions into the Q&A. And just so you all know, I did add the resource link for Ian's website into the chat. So you can just pop in there and get this, download this PDF.
That can, if you then understand the pain points, you can inform your own marketing. So if you're putting a social media post up and you want to promote a particular product, instead of starting the post off by saying, XYZ product is the best on the market, which is whoop-de-doo, if you actually know what the product or service could be. So instead of saying our sandwich is the best on the market, you could say, are you hungry? ? Which is a question related to a pain point that you know your customer's got that they are likely to say yes to if they're interested. And then you can tell a story about how you're going to help them. So by understanding pain points, you understand the sorts of language you need to use that will engage your customer because it's an issue going on in their world. It's all about putting yourself in your own customer's shoes. If anyone wants to go look at Gwen Murphy's website, you can freak yourself out with images like that. So it comes back, as I said before, the customer pleasure points. It's thinking about how is my product or service going to help my client increase their productivity or increase their profitability. Right? So productivity, can they do more as a result of what your product or service does? Profitability is, can they save costs? So if you're selling engine oil and it's a high performing engine oil, that means that the time between services can be less, so maintenance costs are going to be reduced from your customer. So because they've got reduced maintenance costs, then you can offset that against why your engine oil is more expensive than your competitor, because there's some value coming in there. So it's not about the price. And then improve peace of mind. So in the ag space, the less time farmers spend out on the farm doing stuff is better for their peace of mind. So thinking about those three pleasure points can help center yourself in terms of actually, how do I help my clients? And if you don't know, ask them. Ask your clients after they've been happy for a couple of 3 months. So as a result of working with us, or as a result of using our product or service, what were you able to do that you weren't able to do before? Because your customers will tell you your marketing messages. So Julia's asked, what do we think of raised profile and reputation as pleasure points? Yep, I think that feeds into peace of mind. So that if you are working with a client and through what you're doing is making them look better and helping them raise their profile, then that's one less thing they have to worry about. And also, if you're helping them raise their profile, then that means that they will be more successful, and that will then feed into their profitability. So, yep, absolutely. Storytelling. Talked before about people finding a way to start a conversation. And if you start asking those open questions related to pain points that you know they've got, then you start to build a rapport, because your client can see that A, you're actually genuinely interested in their world, and you've got some understanding, and you've done a little bit of work. So you don't have to be a complete expert to be able to start asking those questions. You just need to have some understanding. Then storytelling. So if you can drop into the conversation with someone, how you've helped someone similar to them in their situation, then that helps build validation. So one of the exercises of doing workshops is get people to work through in a very simplistic method. So I don't want to keep going on about food, but it's very similar. It's a bit like a sandwich. So the first piece of bread is, give me a 1 or 2 sentences about the problem your customer was having. The middle of the sandwich is, give me 2 or 3 sentences about what it is you practically did to help them. The last piece of bread, to finish the sentence, is a summary of what your customer was able to do as a result of working with you. So in my situation, I could talk about XYZ client who came to me post-COVID and wanted to build a plan to save their business and grow it once things returned to normal. The middle piece was that I worked with the client on putting together a strategic sales plan, then worked alongside them for 3 months while they implemented it. The last piece of it is that as a result of that, they were able to grow their business 3 times the size that it was within 3 years. So think about, a lot of your clients don't necessarily want to be the first person to use your products or services. They want to know that other people like them are having success as well. So if you're able to tell stories about how you've helped clients like them with your products or services, it all feeds into generating marketing collateral, referrals, anecdotes, and being able to talk sensibly with your clients about how you've helped them. And that storytelling can be done on social media, in person to person, however you want to do it. Think about it in terms of your shop window. This is really cluttered. I'm have a bit to do with music as well, so I quite like, it's got lots of guitars. But when you deal with new clients, they want to come and check out your shop window. And your shop window is your website, it's your socials, it's wherever you are, and it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. Any of us that go to a restaurant with friends, the first thing we're going to do when someone says, oh, we're going to go to the new restaurant down the road, is we Google it and we have a look and see what the reviews are. So prospective clients are no different. They're going to check your website out, they're going to check your socials, and even your Google My Business. And I know Digital Boost has a lot of tools available to you to help get those spick and span. But those are your shop windows. I'd say to people that treat your website as being a salesperson. It's an investment. So when people come to your website or check out those socials, they want to see stories from people like them using your products or services to solve problems like they've got and having good success with them, having good experiences. So this is, this is feeding into your marketing funnel. You understand where your products and services are in the market and how they help people. So the more you can tell stories about how you've done that for other people and have that available so that people can come and check you out, the easier it is to track the right people that you can then convert once they start reaching out to you.
We've got a question here, Ian. What's your view on employing own sales and marketing person versus contracting out to an agency?
It depends. There's some really good agencies out there, and if depending on where you are in your life cycle of your business, it's a good way to go. What I would say is that, and it should be a stepping stone really, until you get enough critical mass that you can get your own sales team up and running. I would be really clear around KPIs and reporting when you are dealing with an agency so that you are protecting yourself. An agency eliminates all of those overhead costs for you, and it's a great way of doing it. You just need to be really clear what the relationship needs to look like, what you want, and what you want to see when. Not that you want to spend all their time, them to spend all their time writing their reports. If you've got a CRM and they've got access to it, then that will be self-generating. But you need to be very clear of expectations. So as an initial starting point, if you can't afford to invest in your own salesperson, great way to go. Just make sure you're dealing with the right partner. Yeah, and as Julie's just she's just offering there to you, using a fractional marketing partner is a good way to a percentage of their time per week. So I've got a number of clients that will do that too. So you can have a part-time salesperson, part-time marketing person. There are some great resources and great people out there to do it. Just be really clear on your expectations, like any relationship. Right, where were we? Yeah, so get your shop window in order. The thing I like about the storytelling thing too is that it's cheap. If you've got, and it's low cost marketing. So if you've got clients that you've done good things with, you really just have to generate that simple storytelling process I've talked about. I think I've got a blog on that, my resources page as well, about the guidelines for how to do that. So you can generate all that simple marketing collateral that you can use to put on social posts, you can generate case studies. If you can get a photograph and a testimonial from your customer, then that's the cream on the top. That's the best way to go as well. But you can use that one piece of content in multiple places. So, and just anecdotally is the best way to go. Right, last piece I wanted to focus on was if you are feeding the right people at the top of your funnel, because we know what we do and we know their pain points, and so we're talking to them in their language, and they're saying, right, these people understand what I'm doing, and they're talking to me about my problems. Then you'll have clients coming to you, and then you get into the situation where as you move them through your funnel, you'll get close to the point you need to be closing. You need to make sure that you know who's who in the zoo. If you've got a customer that you're dealing with and you have what I would call a one-to-one relationship with them, so if we think about string patterns that some of us used to play with when we were at school, that's all very well until maybe the person you're talking to on the customer side leaves, and then the relationship's gone. Similarly, if you leave from your business's perspective, that relationship is gone. So you're far better to build layered relationships. I call it the scourge of the 2IC. So if you've dealt with a client and you go in and then there's a 2IC who's always handling things and is sort of gatekeeper to the boss, and you've always tried to get past them and talk to the boss but never bothered to form a relationship with them, one day they could end up being the boss. And once they're the boss, that's the wrong time to start building a relationship with them. So the sooner that you can understand the difference between a decision maker and an influencer in the customer's team, and start building relationships with the right people and introducing other people from your side, then the stronger your relationship will be with your client. And the stronger their relationship, the harder it is for your clients' competitors, or for your competitors to unwind it.
Got a quick question here from Sarah. Similarly to outsourcing sales, But do you have an opinion about service-based organization not having a dedicated sales department and instead establishing expectation on everyone to represent the business to clients, but focusing the senior consultants on sales drive?
If I understand the question correctly, Sarah, I think everybody's in sales. And I think in a service-based organization, the people at the coalface who are out there with customers are in the best place to generate opportunity. The senior consultants could probably close them, but the people at the coalface see what's going on. I mean, even to the nth degree, I know we don't have control over it, but if you are delivering online product and a courier delivers it, that courier is actually part of your sales team. So I do work with a number of organizations where what we do is give the people who are not necessarily sales focused the basic tools like we're talking about now to actually understand, to be curious and inquisitive, and to ask questions around what they know could be other issues for the client. So coming back to the question, I just think that the more that everybody understands in any given organization how your products or services help their clients, the better. I do have an issue with anybody in an organization that says, I'm not in sales. You only got to think about how the company generates its profits. Those profits pay your salary. So those profits come from customers, and customers, well, we work with them because we sell them things. So I think upskilling everyone to a certain degree. Sarah, if that doesn't answer your question, flick us another note, but I'm more in favor of everybody understanding it. So if you don't have the relationship with someone that you should do, then you need to build a bridge. I don't mean that like in a harden up method, but it's actually understanding, how do I get to know someone? And it's being deliberate. So if you've got the relationship with another person on the vendor side, but you actually want to build a bridge with this person, so you've got the relationship here, it's simply about being deliberate. Next time you're out, say, oh, look, I realize that you work with Bob. I'd love to just introduce myself to him. Can I just go in and say good day? And being deliberate about it. So you've introduced yourself, and then just say, look, I just want to introduce myself. Been working over here with Georgia for the last 3 years. We've put some really good things together. Love to see them going in place. Just wanted to say good day. And then you start moving along from there. So it's about being deliberate and objective in those situations. So a couple other things I just want to jump on. Some of you may have a CRM. Some of you may not. So CRM is customer relationship management software. There are all sorts of them out there, and a number of them do have free entry-level packages that you can get into. They are a great way of keeping all of the information about your clients together. You can send your emails out from them. Traffic from your website can be driven to them. You can feed your social media out of them. You can send emails from them. You can keep track of your sales funnel and all of your deals. So if you don't have a CRM, and a CRM can be, there's a templated Google sheet that you can use just as a CRM if you want to. And some people still operate out of their diaries. That's fine, as long as you've got some way of keeping track of, if you go right back to what we said at the start, keeping track of that prospecting and sales activity that you need to be doing every day. So all sorts of CRMs out there. I think the common ones that I certainly come in touch with for our people are HubSpot, Pipedrive, Salesforce, Zoho will be the ones out there. And if there'll be modules, I'm sure, within Digital Boost on CRM. So CRM is important. And a lot of people don't really understand too. If you're in a small business, it does add to the business value. If you're trying to build your business up for acquisition and you have got a CRM which shows you've got a clear customer base and a way that you manage all of that inbound inquiry and through to sales, being able to show that in a CRM is really important. And it creates transparency across the organization too. And so if Georgia happens to be away on leave for 2 weeks and Ian comes into the organization to help out, he can look at the CRM and see what Georgia's been promising her customers while she's away, and we can still deliver to the client. So that's really important. But above all, in sales, I've just got 3 simple guiding principles. Be yourself. Don't try and be anybody else. You'll get found out. Just have to be yourself, because it is still about dealing with people. Yes, people are further down and further through their funnels than they ever used to be before, because there's so much information out there. But there comes a point in time where they need to have their hand held, and that's where they'll get in touch with you. And when they do get in touch with you, you won't know necessarily straight away whether it's because someone told them to, whether they've been on your Facebook page, whether they've seen your Google My Business reviews and listing, whether they've seen your website, whether it might have been something that you wrote in an article. it can be a myriad of touch points before they finally get in touch. But be yourself and be real. Don't promise things you can't deliver, but above all else, be a problem solver. And that's all there is to it.
Fantastic. We've got a quick question. Samir is wondering, can you please repeat the names of the CRM options?
Yes, so I don't have an alignment with anybody in particular, but the common ones that I come in touch with is HubSpot, Zoho, there is Pipedrive, Salesforce, Sugar's another one, Copper. But if you just Google entry-level CRMs, they'll come up with that. And I just have a look and see where the support is available locally. But there is a wealth of information on YouTube around how to use it and people doing all sorts of quick and easy guides of it.
And there should be resources on Digital Boost as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there aren't, I'll make sure that we get some.
Need to now. I just want one other thing. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, that's where you'll find me. And if you did want to get a copy of the book, if you've been on my website already to download the resources, you would have seen the My Book tab. So this is the shameless self-promotion thing. If you want to jump in there and use the code SME, there is a 25% discount on the book if people want it. But hopefully, just through what we've done this morning, Georgia, it gives people a bit of an understanding that sales is not something to fear. It's something to embrace because you get to work with all sorts of industries. But if you really understand how you help your clients through solving problems for them, then you're not selling to them. They're buying from you.
Yeah, and that's such a generous offer. Thank you, Ian. And everyone, make sure you get that offer. Ian wrote the book on the fundamentals of sales know-how. So it's a great resource. And I think it probably it expands on what we were talking about today. And I think there are also some practical exercises within the book. Is that right? If I'm remembering it correctly.
So for each of the 6 fundamentals, it explains them, it gives context. I share anecdotes of where I've been successful and made mistakes. And then there's practical exercises at the end of each chapter that you can relate to your own business and take it into your sales playbook.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ian. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Every expert that we get, we learn just a little bit more. Oh, wait, do we have more questions coming in before we let go? Thank you, Ian. Would it be useful for B2C?
Yes, it is. Yes. So within chapter 1, I know I've talked a lot about B2B today and the things that you're taking account of, but there's a chapter there on B2C, how you relate it to instead of, in your target market, you start thinking more about geographies and demographics and emotional side of things, what their attraction, the interest, desire, and awareness, how you talk to them in those terms. So, it's not so much about what they can achieve productivity, profitability. It's more to do with how they feel, how they can live a better lifestyle, health and well-being, thinking about what it is they're going to do or feel or be as a result of how they work with you. So even then, it still comes back to making sure that in a B2C sense, the storytelling you're doing out on your social media channels relates to that. And it's about an imagery of people having great experiences with your products and services. Yes, you do some about the product, but there's always going to be a product similar to you, but people having the experience they have with you, you want to make that your own community, grow that community, your tribe.
Yeah, so many great, just offering thanks to you. So again, we thank you. And I thank everyone who shows up every week and tuning into these. And for those of you who are going to be watching the recording, you're going to have questions. They're going to come up. You can reach out to Ian, as Ian said, iancartwright.co.nz. You can reach out to us here at Digital Boost, support@digitalboost.co.nz. And just keep those questions coming, or any feedback that you have, anything more you want to learn about and hear from us. I am here to help get that for you. So give me more to do. Give me more to do in this life. And just so you know, while I have you here, Thursday, we do have a Digital Boost workshop. It is with Kristen Harper of Harper Co. We are going to be talking about the top 10 sales and business mistakes that Indigenous business owners make. Kristen is an Indigenous business specialist, but it's not just for our Maori and Pacifica businesses, but please come along. It will be for everyone. So all you have to do is get on our website, click that plus sign, and you'll get the event information. Again, Ian, such a pleasure having you here. Let's try to do this again. I'm gonna give you a call, see if we can get more of your time. Let's milk you for everything we can get.
That's good. I just want to, what spins my wheels is actually this whole trying to grow the sales capability within New Zealand. That's probably what drove the book, because I couldn't come across a book that was written locally.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of information out there at the high level for people that are selling at SaaS or selling at C-suite and the whiz bang stuff. But there are so many people that I've come in contact with who just don't know where to start, and that's the scary thing. And if we can get over that, then the rest comes. So that's really where all this comes from.
This is amazing. And this is our community here in Digital Boost. So this is exactly what we need. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone for coming. And until next time, Matewa.
Thank you.